Hi, my name's Toby. I am the dubious genius who made this worksheet site that is somehow different from all other worksheet sites, and I want to talk to you about how it's different. So, first, we're going to talk about the teaching assistant. Second, we'll talk about how it works. And last, we'll talk about why I think it's so great. I talk a lot about the teaching assistant because that's how I want this website to function. I want it to be something that supports you in your teaching while keeping you and your students in the spotlight of what's happening. So before I get into that, let me be very clear about what this is not. This is not one more website that you come to and search for worksheets by keyword, whether it's simple past or booking a hotel or airport vocabulary, because that exists. Instead, after you've used those worksheets or made your own, you finish the class with a list of vocabulary that the students have learned but not mastered. And it becomes your problem to figure out how to get these vocabulary words in front of the students again and again until it goes from vocabulary they learned to vocabulary they're practicing to vocabulary they might have mastered to vocabulary they know. That's what the teaching assistant does. This is how I fantasize a teaching assistant working. You go into a classroom, you teach your students, you introduce vocabulary. A lot of it will be on the worksheet you printed out from one of those worksheet libraries, whether you're doing booking a hotel or airport vocabulary. But a lot of it won't, because your students are people and they have their stories. And if you talk about hotels, the one's going to want to talk about cockroaches from their one time in that hotel. Another is going to say they had a lot of sand blow in the hotel. Or they're going to talk about weather because that was one of their problems. The room was great until there was a downpour and the rain came in. And the word downpour gets put onto the board and it's vocabulary that you've taught and you feel like you should review. And there's nobody who can make that worksheet for you in advance that you can go there and say, give me a worksheet that reviews my vocabulary that I taught last Wednesday. It doesn't exist. But a good teaching assistant can support you. A good teaching assistant can be waiting for you when you come out of the classroom and say, hey, what did you teach today? I'll add it to the classroom list. A good teaching assistant will take that list of classroom vocabulary and they will create the worksheets for you. And even more, a good teaching assistant might take a word like author, where there are literally thousands of examples, and they might say, an author is a person who writes books. For example, Dan Brown. But if the teacher they're working for says, listen, my students don't know me as a Dan Brown fan. They know me as a J.K. Rowling fan. A good teaching assistant will not waste your time explaining why Dan Brown is better than J.K. Rowling, although he is. And instead, they'll say, great, when I make you in the next worksheet with the word author, J.K. Rowling will be the example. No problem. Even more, this teaching assistant should be able to say, you know what, you've taught a lot of vocabulary. It's been through the worksheets that we've made. Why not try a crossword with the old vocabulary, or a word search, or a memory game, and put that together for you pretty quick. That's what I made here with the website. It's what I wanted, and now I'm happy to say is what I have, and what I think you're gonna love. That covers what this is. It's a piece of software that wants to function like my fantasy imagination of what a teaching assistant could be. But that brings us to how it works. And because it's different from any other teaching website, it can be intimidating at the first glance. But it doesn't need to be. Instead, think of it like you would a person. If I were following you around, ready to make your worksheets, you would still have to say what the name of each class is. Toby, these are my Tuesday engineers. Toby, these are the clowns from accounting. Tuesdays I teach retirees in the evening. I call them my Tuesday retirees. Right? Either way, you've got to name your classes. The same with the software. You have to create a class, give it a name, say when it meets, and give a title to the worksheet. That's pretty straightforward. And then, after you teach, if I were standing right there, you would say, Toby, here's a list of 6 words that I taught. And I would say, great, they're on the list now. And maybe I would say something like, hey, here it has the word right. Is that right as in right and wrong? Or right as in right and left? And you would say it's right as in right and wrong. And I would say no problem. And, oh look, here you have the word piano. Is that a musical instrument, or is that the musical instruction for playing softly? And you would say, Toby, that's clearly the musical instrument. And I would say, great! But that would be important for me to know to make your worksheets. And you have to do the exact same thing. You have to enter in, here are the words that I taught, and double check that the system understands it the way it's meant to be understood. And once that's done, you're golden. You can make your worksheet. I just told you there's a bit of work to getting used to working with this teaching assistant. And you'd think maybe, I don't know, I've got so many different challenges. Why add one more thing in my day? And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to start with the argument everyone uses. Your learners. It really is better for your learners. My students love my vocab review, which is not how things were when I began making this. The structure, the repetition, my willingness to do everything I can to make the students smile during the exercises, this really has helped my students turn vocabulary they used once in that one conversation 6 months ago into vocabulary they have mastered. They don't master every word, they never will, or at least not yet, but they master a lot more of the vocabulary. Okay, this video has become much longer than I planned on it being. But if you're still watching now, I want to thank you. The obvious next step is for you to create an account, test it out. Almost every page has Contact Toby in the top right of the page. If you don't understand something, if it's not clear, contact Toby. I am proud of this. In a lot of ways, this is my baby, and any question you have about it is not a dumb question. Let me know what you think, how I can make it better.